Alright folks, welcome to my brain. This one's an argumentative. So we haven't really done this quite yet. We've done it before obviously, right? But otherwise we're going to be looking at one of the prompts here and considering how to approach it first, and then later, just like usual, seeing me writing it and how I would tackle on the task of a 40-minute essay here. This is arguably the easiest of the three essays in the way that even though synthesis is easy in the sense that they give you all these sources, you kind of compile and figure out where you want to go with it. The information is there for you, right? Argumentative is easier because it's more natural to write because everything's coming from your mind and your brain, right? And for rhetorical analysis, for synthesis, it's a little bit more difficult just because, well, you're kind of just having to go back and forth constantly into these sources or constantly into the actual reading itself, finding quotes, finding evidences. It's a little bit tedious. So argumentative is easier. Because really it's just kind of whatever you feel on the topic altogether. So it's three categories that I'll usually do when I'm approaching the argumentative essay. I'll spend about, depending on the prompt, right, 5 to 10 minutes to brainstorm this stuff before going into the actual essay itself. Three sections being the general opinions on the matter, meaning how do I feel about this and where would I stand in terms of a stance. Potential evidences, this is the big one here, because really for this essay, and for all the essays, it's just kind of how do you prove your point, right? How can you draw from these various references to prove, yeah, absolutely, I'm correct in my stance, or that I can hold my own against the, opposite opinions here. And then lastly, potential thesis. So it's not going to be perfect necessarily, but I need at least a stance and a reason by the end of all this here to work with as I go into my actual essay altogether. So this is from 2006 AP exam here, and it's pretty short. It doesn't really offer us too much, right? No quote to work with, no, I don't know, even a little mini passage to analyze here. It simply states, from talk radio to television shows, from popular magazines to web blogs, ordinary citizens, political figures, and entertainers express their opinions on a wide range of topics. Are these opinions worthwhile? Does the expression of such opinions foster democratic values? Write an essay in which you take a position on the value of such public statements of opinion, supporting your view with appropriate evidence. So, you can think about your current time period and the news that surrounds you, right? And if you think about how much news is around you, it's there. You can't really escape it. Even if you are just kind of not watching the news stations on TV explicitly, you're going to get news in some way or contact, right? So if you're on social media, for example, your Twitters, your Instagram, your TikToks and so forth, that's going to be there. There's going to be someone who's advocating for a certain group or for rights or talking about some bill that's being passed there. It's pretty hard to escape political opinions. And you're going to see even celebrities talk about their opinions on politics, right? And even recently, with the whole boycotting of products because of the whole Georgia, I believe it's Georgia, right? Give me a sec. I feel like I might be a little off on that. Georgia voting laws. Yeah, the voting laws are happening right now. Essentially, in Georgia, they're having this issue where it's voter suppression, right? It's essentially called Jim Crow 2.0. A lot of racist policies being put to make it difficult for people of color to vote. And so that's happening. And these corporations now, like Coca-Cola, Major League Baseball, and others, which are Georgia-based, are trying to boycott Georgia altogether so they can get the message across about voter suppression and so forth. Even if you weren't really politically active in, national stuff, you probably heard something of that. Or someone was talking about this through a quick 30-second minute. Anyways, long story short, news and news opinion is everywhere. But ask the question of this, where is it value? Is there value in all this? Or maybe it's just kind of malarkey, right? It's kind of just, they'll say something and it's just it's bullshit, essentially. That's not really useful in the whole discourse of actually understanding how politics works here. So we're going to kind of first approach this through the general opinions on the matter. And obviously this is from my opinion, right? You're going to have something perhaps drastically different from mine, but I'm just kind of opening my brain a little bit to how I feel about this here. So I have a little bit of a mixed take on this, where I can see that constant exposure to politics is useful because, let's be honest, no one actively wants to look up that stuff. It's kind of dreary, it's tired to follow through and with it, and it's kind of boring, let's be honest here. So on the one hand, I think that it is useful for these different outlets. Different outlets are useful to bridge mass public to important issues in society. That's what I generally feel. You know what? I'm not a big social media person. I don't have any social media except like, I don't know, YouTube, Discord, stuff like that. Like, you know, I don't have anything that like connects with the vast majority of society here, but I'm not completely against it. I think there's sometimes a misuse of it, but otherwise it does have its goods to influence other people. You know, people have learned due to social media. Other opinions regarding this here is the flip side of it, where I feel like there's too much discourse on, what do you call it? On, I guess, like political opinion. It's not even political, right? It just means like express their opinions on a wide range of topics here. So I guess we can just ignore politics as a whole. Maybe I'm off topic then. Maybe I need to focus just on like opinions here. So maybe there's too much discourse in general regarding issues in the world that are not researched. I feel like oftentimes people will try to speak wisely or intellectually on issues, but they don't know anything about it, and that kind of bothers me because it's like you might spread misinformation, right? I think the most common would be like news stations that are not news anymore; they're like more opinion based. So, as an example, news stations. Good God! Why is there a space there? God damn. News, bro. What was... Huh? What is this... Alright, you know what? What is this actual space? Holy moly. Okay. You're just gonna have to deal with this here. You know what I mean. News stations, right? That project opinion over facts. So that's an issue, because then people will watch the opinions and think, oh, this is real. No, it's just their opinion. It's not real. Other things include, I think we have an issue in America with conspiracy theories. Let's be honest here. Conspiracy theories that roam the web / news / public outlets that spread misinformed opinions. Or simply crazy ideologies. Which is true. Like, a lot of that exists in America. Other things, are these opinions worthwhile? Maybe it would be positive once more and think about if their opinions are good. I think so. I think it offers a multitude of different opinions to follow. So we can get like, you know, two sides of the coin, right? Two sides of the coin. So I have like two cons, two positives. I'm going to kind of like figure out where I really lie in this here, how do I really feel about it. But otherwise, it's kind of like my general feelings on people spreading their opinions, they're expressing their opinions here, and if it's worthwhile or not. So I kind of have like two different views regarding that there, right? Now I need some potential evidences, right? I need something to substantiate my essay with, something to like actually have some basis on. And when we're talking about evidences, we need something concrete. We can't just like speak entirely on our own personal anecdotes, especially on topics like this, because it doesn't really concern us per se. I mean, we could be one of the people who express their opinions to various subjects and issues, but you can't keep talking about that over and over because it's a very like limited perspective, right? So we need things that come from bigger elements. For example, historical events, current events, whether in proximity of your lifetime or actively happening right now, allusions or references to like novels, movies, various works of media, personal experiences, so like anecdotes essentially, right? And then later also popular cultural references. I'm talking about like what celebrities have done or notable trends you've been seeing in recent years, prevalent symbols and examples. Kind of abstract in terms of this category, but just kind of like various ethos that you think could fit into this topic altogether here. So I'm thinking about some of the things they mentioned from talk radio to television shows. And I'm really kind of thinking like, well, we do have a lot of like misguided television shows / talk shows that are highly opinionated and sometimes not researched or speaking from maybe like dangerous or maybe like blind ideology. I mean, I don't want to be partisan here, so maybe I'll just do two examples, right? Think about like CNN, for example. CNN has been criticized a lot of times for it speaking more about like entertainment news rather than actual news. So they'll like glorify a situation, or like they'll really criticize something there and like focus on irrelevant issues at times there. So in that case, CNN has been criticized to be a little bit more of like tabloid news, where it's just to get the ratings up and to get people kind of like excited on something, but not necessarily to inform people or to make them like, you know, active in this whole democratic system here. You also have like Fox News, for example, who caters to one particular audience, and so they have a very skewed perspective, and they kind of like, you know, try to market that audience there, where it becomes like this echo chamber of similar thoughts spiraling and just excludes anything else of like party ideologies or like just conservative ideologies here, right? So I'll take CNN, I'll put Fox News, for example, add some examples here. Other things, it mentions popular magazines to web blogs. So I might talk about the fact that like very accessible platforms, social media, that both informs people quickly, but may not be entirely factual or accurate as possible. Other things, I need to think about at least 3 evidences, right? Because I need like maybe 2 or 3 body paragraphs, of which need to substantiate those with various aspects here. I could even talk about like personal encounters with the news, right? So I can talk about like personal experiences with the news. And I mean, I'm older than you guys, so I definitely have like more of an observation in terms of the trends of news, like it becoming more extreme, for example, or it becoming more tabloid, or it becoming more advertisement heavy, something like that, right? Or it might be that the speakers on the shows are more, I don't know, they are more biased, etc., etc. So personal experience with the news, seeing the trend of how information is spread in modern versus past times here. Let's try for one more. We need at least one more in terms of like possible evidences, because I might have some like good examples thus far, but I want something just as a backup in case, right? So let me just make more space. God damn it. Oh, hold on. What the hell? Hold on. Technical issues. Trying to make another page. Grr. All right, you know what? It's going to be like this. Wait, I can just move this over. All right, guys. We have the technology. Or do we? Hold on. Perfect. All right, cool. So we need another example over here. What else did they mention here? This is why like the prompt itself is super useful, because it kind of like guides you in terms of, political figures, entertainers. Let's think about like Trump and Twitter, right? Trump or other politicians / celebrities. And Twitter, are those opinions valid? Oftentimes it wasn't really valid. I mean, if you go back and count the amount of lies that were put in there, and not just him, obviously, right? Other people also do the same thing, but there was a lot from him. And that's kind of an issue where they're expressing their opinions on a wide range of topics, for him political, but obviously there's some social issues too. They weren't always well thought out, let's just say that. They weren't even spell checked sometimes. So there is an issue where it seems to be like inflammatory opinions rather than effective, well thought out opinions. It was like more reaction. It was more like him just kind of like being displeased about something and then speaking regarding that there. And it's kind of like, you should be doing that, you know what I mean? And it kind of does influence his base too, right? So it's not like it's inconsequential. There is consequence to it altogether. So what do I feel about all this here? I would probably start positive for my essay, and I'll go negative afterwards here, because I think the truth of the matter is that I'm more skeptical about widespread opinion, because, you know, we have like this sort of group herd mentality, right? It oftentimes doesn't turn out well, because it just, there's too much information. It becomes like almost an overload, and when you throw in sort of like the excess ideas out there, into the mix, it makes it all just kind of like a bad pot, you know. So I might say something along the lines of, see, I need to make an essay which take a position on the value of such public statements of opinion, supporting your view with appropriate evidence. Okay, so value. All right, so I'll probably do like a although this, however type statement. While this is going to be a rough draft, by the way. I'm going to revise this thesis if I need to. Oh, has proven beneficial for various outlets. Quickly and trusting, is that the right verb? It's time to subscribe to sources that are more fact-checked, researched, and articulated. Enlightened. Enlightened maybe is a little too strong. Achieving educated populace. All right, I'm going to probably change this up a little bit here, but let's see what my thesis is thus far, because, you know, where does it go wrong and what's working for so far. So I need to take a value on this public statement type of exposure we have in America, right? Or not, maybe not in America, just like in the world in general. But I wrote, while it has proven beneficial for various outlets to spread opinions quickly and expansively to the mass public, the amount of expression out there has become one of overload for the average American to digest. It is time to subscribe to sources that are more fact-checked, researched, and articulated. Articulated? Articulate? Fact checked, research, and articulated. Articulate. In the pursuit of achieving an educated populace that can actively pursue the democratic values as they were intended to be executed. I have a couple of tricky phrases in here that we'll need to touch on to my essay here. For example, in the very first line that I have, in terms of like proving beneficial for various outlets to spread, I gotta explain why I think that is beneficial, right? How has it been beneficial? What are some examples of that? I definitely want to talk about the fact that there is an overload for the average American here, so I definitely need to speak on that as well. And I need to talk about what this looks like. Subscribe to sources that are more fact-checked, researched, and articulate, as opposed to what, right? Ultimately to pursue democratic values. And so how does doing the above actually register into this idea of democratic values, and what does it mean to be the intention of being executed? Like, what does that look like, right? So this is, I think, a workable thesis, but it's also one that's tricky because it's one that has a lot of like loose ends I'll have to definitely answer in my essay altogether, but it creates like a more open discussion, if anything, possible there, right? So I think it works, and that's kind of where I stand, at least, regarding this topic here. So that's kind of how I brainstorm. Again, obviously, it takes a little bit longer, kind of like jotting down the notes and everything, right? But you want to do this process in about 10-ish minutes, because anything more than that, you're not going to have enough time to write this argument essay. Truth be told, you probably only need about 25 minutes to write this essay, because it's going to be pretty like, no, once you start, you start. It's kind of like just an open expression of your ideas here, unlike the other two. But you do want to make sure there's time for you to go back and edit, to go back and revise, etc., etc. It's definitely really important to do that for a cleaning up of your grammar mistakes, or to input ideas that you left out the first time, or to change up your thesis and other topic sentences that you may have, modified as time went on. So next video, I'll be writing this argument essay with this thesis here. I'll try to do that within the next like 30 minutes. Like, I'll try to do within that time frame, right? Kind of like the other ones here, and see how far I get with it. So there you go, argument, brainstorm, and then later we're going to that actual essay. Just a moment.